use them together, they create like stone, right? When you put these together, the dye pushes away the pigment and creates full marbleized color. But when we developed oxides, the chemists figured out a way to fuse dye and pigment together to make it one. And that is what they did with alcohol pearls. Alcohol pearls are a pearlescent ink. Each color has its own shading color of pearl. And once you mix it up, that pearl is now fused to the colorant. So this will never separate like a mixative. If you put alcohol ink on it, if you put blending solution, it remains pearl. It will never separate to create that agate. So when you look at the colors, these are all the colors of the alcohol pearls, and you'll see that when the light hits it, and you'll definitely need to do it kind of for your video to make sure you get that perfect little, the way the light catches it. It has a very soft pearlescent luster to the finish. And the beauty of that is there's no texture to it. If you're familiar with a mixative is going to have a texture. That pigment is going to sit on the paper. This is part of that ink. So it sits in there and it creates this pearlized luster. And the thing to keep in mind, especially if you've used inks before, we also have a pearl mixative. I don't know if I can find it in here that quick, probably not. But the pearl mixative is something, is that a pearl mixative? No, that's no cap. I can't find it that quick. A pearl mixative, people say, well, I can just make my own. I can just take my alcohol inks, use my pearl mixative, and make a pearlized ink. This is alcohol ink with a pearl mixative, and you can see that when the light hits it, it whites out, right? Because that pearl separates from the top. It's a mixative after all. And so my ink is underneath, my pearl is on the top, and that's what whites it out. This has that same consistent shimmer of color no matter what. Yeah, and no texture. So how do we use them? Well, we can use them by themselves, or we can use them in conjunction with alcohol inks. But more importantly, what can we use them on? We can use them on alcohol ink cardstock, which is glossy. We can use them on UPO. And when you use them, this is just dripped on UPO. So you can see all those pearly colors. I know. It looks like it should be textured, but it isn't.
That's going to be fun on your Easter eggs.
You know, swirl it around. So this pearlescent look, when you start putting it on paper, it now just kind of takes on pretty much a mind of its own because of that pearly look. We can use it on UPO, but we also introduced some new substrates at the show. 3 new papers. The first one is just a black cardstock. Now, honestly, as an alcohol ink user, I don't use alcohol ink on black paper because these are translucent and I would have to build a foundation. But painters like to paint on this. We have a white mixative. And so Snowcap will turn any alcohol ink into an opaque medium, almost like a paint. That's too hard for me. There's painters that can do it, and I'm like, I don't even know where my sample is. My sample is horrendous, it's terrible. But I still wanted black paper because I've always wanted a really nice black cardstock to map any of my backgrounds, any of the things that I do. So this cardstock, because to me it always makes your work just pop. But this is actually it's almost like a rubberized cardstock that we found in Italy. If you feel it, it has a beautiful
wow.
Very, very thick.
Oh my gosh.
It is alcohol inkable. You can use oxide sprays on that, which is very cool. Acrylic paints on that. You can die cut it, you can emboss it. It's like velvety, right? It has an awesome, awesome finish. The other ones, though, that are inkable are a brushed silver and a silver sparkle. Now, brushed silver is, well, it's just a pretty metallic. It's very subtle, okay? Very smooth, almost looks pearly, but it's not that bright mirrored cardstock. And if you're doing things that are a little bit more steampunk, a little more industrial, this is a nice paper because you can alcohol ink it, you can stamp on it with archival, and you still get a really nice, almost subtle metallic. But I think the paper that's freaking everyone's freak at the show is Silver Sparkle, which I guess, no surprise, no surprise that if it's sparkly and it's at a craft show, people are going to like it. And that's okay, because I'm not a huge fan of glitter. This was a product called Deco Sheet that I released probably a couple years ago with Ideology. It has since been retired, but Deco Sheet was an adhesive back vinyl that had this kind of glittery texture. The Silver Sparkle, completely different, even finer, and has absolutely no texture to that paper. And it is a really nice, thick, you can pass that around so people can feel it, a nice, thick cardstock. It is a cardstock, and the alcohol inks do not bleed through it. More importantly, though, anything that's sparkly, we immediately say is glitter. This is not a glittered paper. There's no glitter on there at all. It is a printed paper.
Oh my god!
And because it is a printed paper, we can do crazy backgrounds, all these great things that we would normally do with alcohol ink. We can do. We get all these blends. We can emboss
I was
it.
gonna ask, can you
We
emboss
can
it?
die cut it. Yeah,
Can I see?
absolutely. So taking even all of your colors, we're getting that same blend on this paper because Deco Sheet wouldn't do that. Like you could alcohol ink it, but that's it. If you put blue on it, it was blue. And if you dripped a color, it was a drip. You could never get it to blend or move.
Right.
So that was something that really excited me about this paper is like, okay, now we have a sparkly paper, but it still has that movement like we're getting with Yupo. So in addition to the 3 papers, we also released an art product because we had a lot of people, and for those that are doing mixed media in their store, you have a lot of artists that are painting and doing mixed media with alcohol ink, and they want a substrate. They want something more substantial than Yupo. Yupo's great. You can do great things on Yupo, but you still have to mat it, you have to frame it. So when we were at the art show, we met a gentleman from Masterpiece who does all the canvas boards for the art world, wrap canvas. And he brought over this board and he's like, I've got this material that painters don't really paint on, but I think your ink might do really well on it. So, hey, how are you? Good to see you. So we developed a product with him called the Hardcore board, and what it is, it's wood. Okay, so this is not something you can die cut. It's a masonite board, but it is laminated with this vinyl type material, so it doesn't peel off, it doesn't erode. It's on both sides. But it has a very cool, similar kind of playtime than you would get with Yupo. And once you do all of your paintings on it, it doesn't warp, it doesn't do any of that. You can emboss on it, but you cannot die cut it. It is wood. It is a hardcore board. But now once you do art, you've got a painting. You've got something that you can hang on the wall. You can, and you can see on this board, lift ink works on it. So the alcohol lift works. The archival stamps on it beautifully. So it's a great substrate
where
that
the
they can
lift
come in,
is.
paint, do their thing, and now they have a finished work of art.
Thank you.
So here's just kind of how it works. Pretty cool. I'll just take a board. Now we'll get into some playtime. So when we add the inks, we can add the inks a lot of different ways. It's completely up to you. The pearls, because they are not a mixative, it doesn't require a ridiculous amount of shaking, okay? Because a mixative is just pigment and solvent, and you've got to just like wait for that ball to kind of find its way, but these mix really well. I will give you a tip though, if you're going to be using them and if you like to play around with alcohol ink, we have a storage tin, which is awesome for your alcohol inks. In fact, we even came out with the mini blending solution just because people wanted a blending solution to go in their tins. You know, if they're going to go to class, even though we know we need that big giant bottle of it, they're like, yeah, but I just want to take my ink, so can you at least make one to fit in there? It's like, oh, okay.
Makes sense.
But it's in there. But for the pearls, I like to now store my tin sideways. And the reason I do that is because if your pearls can settle lengthwise, it mixes so much faster, so much faster. So do you have to store them on their side? Absolutely not. But if you're going to use them, it's just really nice because
then you don't have that bottom.
You can figure out a dance move or something. But yeah, really, really nice. They mix it very, very, very fast. You can use the pearls just on their own, or of course use them with the ink. And I prefer using them with inks. I just think that I just get a little bit more creative play or freedom. So here's what we're going to do. I'll just take some colors. Let's start with this one. We're going to take a little Sublime. The names are just fun. We did Sublime and Envy and Intrigue and Splendor and Deception and
so they don't match the
very,
inks.
very cool.
There
No,
we go.
it's its own palette.
Here comes the masterpiece.
It's its own palette, its own colors. So this one, this is Deception. Oh, this is really good. Little Intrigue. Yeah, I know. Yeah, a little Alchemy. Yeah, that's good. And I'm just dripping it on right now. Nothing's really going on, okay? So don't overthink the ink at this point. But I'm going to go in with some alcohol inks as well. So I'll start throwing in some patina.
So you don't start with the sponge dauber thing?
Well, you can, but I've just found that if I do this, I really get out of my head, right? Because I found that when I put ink on there, it's like that first pounce, I throw this on, I'll fix it later. Because it looks like a hot mess right now, and it will, but I just have some color down. This one was just some sailboat. Yeah, it's weird when you kind of go back to old Adirondack color. You're like, sailboat blue. Like, what is that? All right, I'm gonna go in with some blending solution. Put some on the tool, and now let's just kind of mix around those colors, because I just want to show you that on this board, those colors will still play, right? And I really anticipated that the fact that it was a coated board, anything that I put over the top of it would in fact stay there, and it doesn't. So even if I go in and drip some ink on there, I'm going to get kind of that blend, that drippage happening. I'm gonna go back with a little bit more alchemy. I am in the habit now with pearls though, that I want to put the caps on because you just want to give it that quick mix, that quick shake when you go to use it. Where is smolder? Smolder is like, it's kind of like mushroom, you know that color, if you like that color.
Yeah.
It's almost a pewtery color, so a little gray, smoky color. One thing I want to show you, let me find Celestial. Celestial is, this is pretty. Hopefully your camera's gonna pick this up. It just seemed like this morning in the videos, this did it. You'll be able to see kind of the pearl sparkle if I put this on there, okay? So when you put this ink on there, can you see that kind of sizzle? That little pearl just kind of dance on there. So all of the inks have that, and that's what's really happening. When you put it onto the substrate, you're getting that great little luster, that great sparkle. But let's just keep going. And now I'm going to put some color on here. I'm going to put a little bit of yellow on here.
Whoa.
And then I'm just going to go in there and stamp this out. Right? So when you put this on,
And
this
that was
is going
what?
to work.
I'm sorry.
Which one?
What's the one that's making it sizzle?
The pearls. It's the pearl. It's the pearl that you're seeing. It's not doing it. It's what's in it, really.
Oh my
So,
god.
pretty cool. So now we're going to let's use a little villainous. Purple villain. You can see, I mean, it's just a much softer color when you're putting that on
Sell
there.
now like it's on you, though. Because you've got enough layers.
Yeah, I mean, what's fascinating about this particular substrate is like even when you're going in, I mean, I'm just making a hot mess right now on purpose, just so you can see what we're going to do. Yeah. So I'm just going to throw on some color. I can throw on a little bit of blending solution. I'm going to throw on some more ink, just because I want to show you what I've learned about these panels, which really fascinated me. Okay, I'll take that. I'll do a little bit of yellow. Alright, move this around. Okay. Let's do one little bit of mess, because it's never enough. Would you put this much ink on a panel? But this is what I wanted to play, because when I was first testing these out, I'm like, I want to see how much this could take. Is this going to just keep getting darker and darker like alcohol ink cardstock? Or is it going to be more like Yupo, where no matter what you put on it, you're going to see that next layer, which is what this did. But this next part is, I think, what fascinated me even more. So once it was done, I also learned that it was heat stable. I could stamp, I can emboss, I can do any of that, so that was cool. I knew that when this dried, the pearls actually came out to be even a little bit more pearly. But then after I did it, I'm like, you know what? I don't really mind that color underneath the surface, but I only had one board, so I decided, you know what? I just want to kind of have a do-over. So I took blending solution and just started putting blending solution down the whole thing.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And before I knew it, I was like, holy crap, what's happening? I started to create kind of this blend of a background. And I'm going to let it dry. I'm just going to let it do its thing right now. When this starts to dry, you start creating this effect. This whole drip, this whole striation is nothing more than inking a background and cleaning it off. Okay? So everyone coming up, they're like, how are you blending your inks? I'm like, you won't believe me if I told you. So I kind of need to really prove myself. Now, if you don't want the lines, just go with blending solution. It's going to create a cell-like wherever you break it. So here I'm going to get a different break than up here.
Now those go out. Is there any way to keep that vibrant separation of colors?
Yeah, you can go over the top of it with iced resin or resist spray. If you spray over resist spray, you're going to get a shine.
No, I'm saying, see how this is blended in, but how you have distinct darker colors there?
Yeah, it's going to stay like that. So this was blended simply because I did blending solution all the way down. Okay. But then yesterday, I did this one, and I missed a bunch of areas, and I'm like, ooh, I like that. Yeah. So then today, I started dripping to where I would get lines at the bottom because I like the breaks because it just created another pattern. And now today, I did a blend, let it blend, and then went back and did a second blend, so I even get like a break down there. But you can see as it's drying, all of that mud all of a sudden becomes kind of a cool background. And that's why I want to show you the silver sparkle. The silver sparkle, when I started working with this, I thought, this is not inkable. I think I screwed it up. Let me have a drink before I follow. I just don't like to drink. Not when I'm working. No, only after. Okay. So when we work with silver sparkle and alcohol ink, you can use alcohol pearl on this if you want, but honestly, it does not change it at all on this substrate. Okay? Because the sparkle is happening in the paper. So can you use pearls? Yes. Do you need to? No. It doesn't need to. So I'm just going to go in with straight alcohol inks. I'll just start. Yeah. You do that, you'll learn to just get over yourself and get out of your head. Okay, because the hardest thing is, where do I start? Like, what color do I start with? Well, I better start with something because I've got ink on there. All right. So now I'm just going to start stamping my colors down there. You're going to see when you stamp it, it looks like everything just is ruined. You don't see the sparkle anymore. It completely dulls it out. But wait, it will be fine. So again, just going in with colors. I can put some ink on there. And this could be, I mean, when I showed you those backgrounds, like that blue one, I mean, you could be really pretty about it. You can choose the colors you want. You don't have to just be dripping all sorts of madness on there. So don't think that's how you always have to do it. But I like to demo this way because you'll really be surprised if you just allow yourself the unexpected, right? Just embrace imperfection, especially with alcohol ink. I think it's one of the most forgiving art mediums. I mean, look at that. Like that, I can do something with that. I can still stamp on it. I can do some collage on it. It makes for a great foundation. And if I had to plan that, I couldn't plan that. Some people may even hate that mess. They might be like, no, I just want to go over with like one wash of color. Great. So on this, you can see that when you ink it, the sparkle completely dulls out. But when it dries, and I'm just using heat to speed it up, you'll see that as soon as the ink dries, all of your sparkle returns. Okay? So you don't have to heat it, you just have to wait for it to dry. So that's just one thing that I always want to point out in the demo, because when I did test the paper, I inked it and then I threw it in the trash. You know, I did. I was testing it, I put ink on, I'm like, oh, dulls the glitter, threw it in the garbage.
Never throw away anything.
Yeah, and then when I walked by the trash, it was sparkling. And I came back out, I'm like, oh, just need to wait for it to dry. It totally worked. Yeah, we've got great new paper. And all of those inks that I was dripping on still doesn't bleed through the back because it has a coating on there. But this will still work like this if you want it to.
Can you get that back down to the border close to it with alcohol?
No, because it has a texture.
Okay.
You can get it close to it, yes.
Oh my God.
See? Total happy accident, but now it's a technique. You know, people are like, we're gonna do the rhodium technique. I'm like, okay. But it's cool. And I think what I like about this too is for people that just aren't good at alcohol ink or just don't trust the colors, it's foolproof, this one. Just put it on and put blending solution and you see what you get. Correct. Yeah, because if you don't, then you will muddy your colors. Are you leaving, dog? Yep. Safe travels, Di. She's out of here.
Is her daughter having her baby?
Yes, she is. Oh my goodness. She got the call this morning. She wasn't leaving until tomorrow. She's like, well, I'm on a plane now.
She said.
Yep. But a very cool background. Just something so cool and just so different. And that's what I think is, it's just neat. Just totally changes that substrate. Imagine die cutting out of that or stamping on it or punching it. It's just, I know, it's cool. It has a really, really neat effect. So I think it's exciting to have new ink, but it's even more exciting to have new things to ink, right? Because like, oh, we have new inks, so like, I'll get up my Yupo, and all of that is still great, but having a few things of like having a board now that you can teach a mixed media art class, or having something sparkly that we can die cut and emboss is pretty dang exciting to have with alcohol. Very, very cool. And all of the other inks, I'm just so surprised on this hardcore board that we can do lift ink and stamping. It's pretty awesome.
Are they frameable sizes?
5x7, 5x4, standards. And then there's an assortment pack, like 8x10, that sort of thing. So yes, they are scanned. Of course you can. Of course I will.
Can we just take a picture with you for our store?
What's that?
Can we take a picture with you for our
Yes, of
store?
course.
Tim, may I have one of these substrates?
This picture will go to Curacao.
Wonderful.
We are from Curacao. So
Wow.
And then you can do that.
Yeah.
Wow, cool. Thank you.
Okay, so what is the shimmer on there?
It's the paper.
Okay.
It's the paper. So it's the new silver sparkle. That is alcohol inkable. Yeah, so the alcohol ink blend and do everything on it, but you've got a great sparkle with it.
The problem when you sign the back is do you frame the front of it or you frame the back of it?
It's up to you. Do you want me to sign the front too?
Yeah. Exactly. It's like a spinning frame.
So what inspires your creativity
Every day.
every day?
Everyday life. Everyday life inspires creativity. I believe to remember the now.
And do you have a favorite?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Do you have a favorite medium to work with?
10 pieces in a pack.
Wow, now all of a sudden.
I know.
Sorry.
Can we steal your stash?
No, you can't steal my stash. I'll get in trouble. Alan will be really upset with me.
Thank you
There you
so
go.
much.
You're welcome. That's a good one.
May I have the front too?
I can't do another board, sorry. I can't do the embossed one. I can give you an inked one if I have a smooth inked one.
This one? This one?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you, Tim.
You're welcome.
Did you already do the distress oxides?
I did. Let's see what time it is. I can do it again. I have time to do it again.
Can I get a quick picture with you before I have to?
Of course, come on.
Can I ask a question about the alcohol? You know what?
What's that?
I don't know if that's already been asked, but
What's
the label, can that be shipped by plane? Because, you know, last time with
None of these can be shipped by plane, but I do know that Rangers worked on a lot of international distribution, so alcohol inks are more available worldwide.
Okay,
They
because the
dealt with,
last time it was
I think
worse than
Notion's
giving
marketing.
birth to a baby.
Yeah, I hear that they really work on it. Oh, you're doing it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good to see you.
Will you be showing them again?
The alcohol pearls? Yes, at 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
So I'm going to do oxides right now. If I have time after oxides, hey, I'll do it.
We just purchased that whole line for our store. So I'm so
Ridiculously
excited.
cool.
Yeah.
It's awesome. You should have time.
Okay.
What time is it right now? Is it 20 after? That's what I have.
don't know.
I got
What does your phone say?
I have glitter on me. I don't know. That's all I
What
have.
does your phone say?
It doesn't say anything.
Doesn't have your time? Are we live?
Yeah, you're live.
Say hey.
Hey.
I've got you live too.
Hey. All right. Yeah, so we'll do oxide sprays.
Video then?
Yeah, sure, of course. Yeah. So the oxide spray is just, and that's a quick demo, so I do think we'll have time to get to both.
Perfect.
So the oxide sprays is just a sprayable version of the Distress Oxide ink pad. And the reason I wanted to do that is because anytime you have a different delivery system, a different way to apply a product, it does open the doors of what you can achieve with it. Oxides obviously have a beautiful ability to blend and stamp and create some awesome backgrounds. But if you get into mixed media, art journals, and you wanted to do bigger backgrounds, like these guys, having a sprayable medium provides a lot more coverage very, very quick. And that's really why I wanted to do some sprays. Now they're available in 12 colors right now. It is the same dye and pigment concept, but a different formulation. It had to be totally different in order to spray it. So it's not just like taking a re-inker and adding water. If you do that, the whole bottle will turn white and oxidize. So it was important for our chemists to figure out how we can liquefy that kind of component and make it sprayable. And I love these because they're really fun to do. We can use them on a variety of substrates. We can use them on tags or watercolor paper, use it on craft or dark cardstock. But when we work with these sprays, because it's a dye and pigment, you need to shake it up. Now the label will tell you to shake it side to side to keep that ink from oozing out of the neck. I just wrap the bottle with a paper towel so I can just shake the snot out of it and just be done, all right? Now it's not like a mica spray. It's not like we have to mix it up completely. We just need to get that dye and pigment kind of swirling around, right? So I'm just gonna take a couple of colors. What do I have here?
Thank God for chemists, huh?
I know, we've got some great chemists at Ranger. They really do. They do a great
Right?
job figuring it out. Now when you use oxygen, you can use them by themselves, or you can also use them with your spray stains, depending on the colors you want. And I often like to do that. I like to just decide, okay, I want to add some pink, but I want that to be a pop of color. Well, I'm going to choose that ink for that. And you'll see how they really play nice on this. I'm just going to go in, add some spray. Because it is a dye and a pigment, you can put a color on top of a color. Okay? We can go back and we can still add some of that. Add a little bit of that dye in there. All right, let's see what we're gonna get. Let's put a little bit more blue. See that? I can get that blue just to sit over the top of it. All right, I'm gonna start drying it. Now as I dry it, I just want to get a little bit of a blend. So I'm just gonna spray a little bit of water to start. I'm gonna pick up my background just for a second, and then I'm gonna set it back down. Just because for me, when I'm doing sprays on a background, I like to have a little imperfection movement, otherwise it looks like individual pockets of color. Now you'll see as this dries, because I added some water, it's going to start to oxidize. It's going to give us that really cool background. But I love how these inks also layer. You could go in and make a print on this if you wanted to with watercolor paper. But another thing that's important to know whenever you're working with distress is when you add water, changes what it's going to do. If I add water while the inks were wet, which is what I did, it created that beautiful blend. As it starts to dry, if I add more water, now we're getting those kind of speckly marks. Yeah. And I can just kind of dab that off. All right.
That's beautiful.
I know, like I want to print into that. All right, so on something like this, if I keep wetting this, and that's just what I'm going to do right now, I'm just going to add a little bit more water. That ink is going to continue to run. It's always going to be water reactive, and the more water we add to this, the more it's going to oxidize. So if you want to change your background, if you want to add different colors, different elements to it, we can continue to manipulate this background. The fact that we have dye and pigment, I think, is what makes it really, really nice, because I can take just a little bit of fossilized amber, just throw in a little bit of yellow right in there. And you can also see how the spray stain and the oxide kind of stay a little separate, right? Dye and pigment, but if it's just dye, it creates a cool background.
If you hadn't added water, would it dry dull like that? Or would it dry?
It would always oxidize. Yeah, it would always dry. It would dry with a matte finish. So I don't know where the swatches are. Take a look at the swatches. The top area is really where the spray was, and that bottom corner is where I hit with water. Okay. Right? So it's still going to dry with that matte finish, but it just depends, of course, how much water you add. So you can see on this one how that background just got even whiter, right? Remember before it was like more of that bluish color because we sprayed on Mermaid Lagoon? So that's one thing to keep in mind with an oxide spray, is that the more water you add, the more it's just going to continue to oxidize in the background. Yes, T? Of course you can.
I got a question from a customer who asked if the hardcore art panels will work in the stamp plan.
I really don't know. I would imagine they would.
Yeah, like if they use a rubber side?
I'd have to try it. They're pretty thick, so I'd have to try it. I'm really not sure. And I don't have one here.
Okay,
so
thank you.
Sorry, but...
I tried with a canvas.
With a canvas? Did it work?
Yes.
Oh, there you go. Start with a canvas board. There's no thicker than canvas board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
You need to experience, that's what you tell us.
Yeah, I know. But I had literally 2 panels before the show. They sent me 2 that I just kept using and wiping away and using and wiping away. All right, so that's oxide sprays, right? Cool. Other quick thing, Distress archival inks. Same archival formulation, just in the Distress palette. Awesome to stamp on top of oxide because it's oil-based. So let's get into, we got it. So you're just here hanging out.
Yeah, I'm
fantastic. Simon's like, oh boy.
He's
my watch was wrong. Yeah, no, my watch was wrong. No,
I'm at the other table today.
Oh, you have another table?
Yeah.
Oh, they're keeping you company. That's good. All right, so we'll do alcohol pearls. Yep, we'll get into that. Just put this away. Okay. So let me...
So do you have to wipe the nozzles off like you usually?
No, you don't, because it's not a microspray.
Okay.
So the pigment particle is much smaller. I will say that at home, I think every maker just has their own kind of creative practices, and I have different creative practices now. Now, as much as I have a towel, I always have like a tray of water. I have this tray, and I'm not using it here just because I have no room on my table. But I have some tray of water because I normally throw my stencils in it, my brushes, whatever. And now when I have any kind of ink spray, I just do that when I'm done. And it's like nothing clogs on me now. And it also stays really nice. Because sometimes you have a little bit of ink and it'll drip down. So it seems kind of silly, but instead of leaving it like that, it's just one quick swipe and
it makes sense.
Like a dip and dry. But it's weird how you kind of...
Yeah, I got in the habit of just hitting the nozzles, but I always have water on the table too.
I know. I used to do a baby wipe, but I have to stop, and now I'm just like, I just dipped it in and swiped it off. So, yeah, but you don't have to clean them off. You really don't. All right, so alcohol pearls. Alcohol pearls are a whole new thing to the alcohol ink world. Our world of alcohol ink is really revolving around a solvent-based dye. That's what alcohol inks are. They are translucent dyes designed for non-porous surfaces. They will bond to metal, plastic, glass, UPO, gloss paper, all sorts of cool things. Then when we were working with colors, if we ever wanted to get, you know, kind of a different type of background, we would combine alcohol inks with an alcohol mixative. Okay? By combining these, we would start to take dye, put it in with pigment, and get this great separation. We would create polished stone backgrounds and all sorts of cool things. What we've done though with alcohol pearl is our chemists have figured out a way to fuse that pigment to the dye, probably inspired by this discovery, right? Oxide was the first time we were able to get a dye and a pigment to live together. So they just took from a water-based medium and went into solvent, and that's what these, oh, not this guy, that's an ink. An alcohol pearl is that combination. But more importantly, it's a pearlized ink. It's not to be confused with a mixative, because it's not a mixative. It doesn't have any separation, it doesn't break apart. It actually stays as a consistent pearlized color, completely smooth. So it has no texture. It's not like pigment is going to sit at the top. And you'll see it does come in 12 colors. Each color has its own coordinating pearl, right? So you can see at the bottom of the bottles, like pink has a pink pearl, orange is an orange pearl, green is a green pearl. And that's really important because if you are familiar with alcohol ink, we do offer a pearl mixative. And you may think, oh, I can just take the ink, add pearl mixative, and off I go. Well, that's totally different. And I don't know where my sample is. It's probably buried under a pile of something. Here it is. This, I just wanted to create a sample just to show you what it looks like if you took alcohol ink with the pearl mixative compared to a very similar color of alcohol pearl, okay? So what you're gonna notice is pearl mixative, because it's white, will always rise to the top when it dries. It creates a beautiful pearlized effect, that's what it's supposed to do. But an alcohol pearl just has a pearlescence as part of the ink. So when you use different colors, you're not getting that white layer when it's all said and done. You can use pearls all on their own. That's what this is. This is just different colors of pearls dripped on, dripped on, dripped on. Or you can use pearls with your alcohol inks. Or you can use pearls with alcohol inks and mix. It's just another kind of alcohol ink. But it's important to know that if you use it, say just with your alcohol ink, it's not going to give you that separation. It doesn't break like a mixative. The pearl is part of the ink, which makes it very cool.
Very cool.
Now, in addition to the inks, we have new substrates. We have a new black matte cardstock, which is a really thick, kind of a suede finished cardstock. Nice. It's really good.
Yeah.
For card bases, you can also use it as a matte, but you can alcohol ink on that. If you use it, you need to use snow cap. You'd actually need to use snow cap because this is, it's weird because you go, oh, it's a pearl, it's going to sit on the top. This is still translucent. Yeah, these are still translucent. So if you dripped pearl on this, you'd have black paper. You still need to use it with something white, like a snow cap and pearl, then you would get a pearlescent on black. It's kind of weird. I thought the same thing. That's how I know.
I was like, oh,
I'm like,
wow.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
But oxide sprays are cool on that.
Yeah.
That works really good. Paint.
Yeah.
But we also have a brushed metallic. A brushed silver is kind of like, just kind of like a really nice, a lot of people are comparing this to a pearlized cardstock, but it really is a brushed metallic. It's nice because if you want to have a metallic look, but you don't want that mirrored cardstock, that's what's really good about this. But I think the paper that everyone is like, yeah, Tim, shut up and get to the sparkle.
Glitter.
I know, see?
The glitter.
I know what you're thinking. You're like, quit talking and get to the sparkly stuff.
Yes.
This is Deco Sheet. So this is something I released with Ideology a couple of years ago, and it was an adhesive back, sparkly vinyl. We don't make this anymore. But this was cool. I could ink it, but once I inked it, however I applied the ink, it would just sit there. So when we developed this sparkly cardstock, it is a cardstock. It is a cardstock weight. The sparkle is much finer than even Deco Sheet was. But this stuff, it has no glitter in it at all. It's just a printed process. There's not a fleck of glitter on there. But it inks beautifully. When you add your alcohol ink, you get amazing, sparkly, blended color. And you can use it as a background. You can also use it with an embossing folder. It doesn't crack or break because it's not vinyl that's going to stretch or snap. So it's completely inkable. But after it dries, you've got sparkly goodness. So let me show you the pearls, and then we'll show you the paper, and we'll wrap this thing up. So the pearls themselves, let me just get a piece of UPO.
Right?
Now Yupo is a synthetic paper, it's plastic. Just going to show you just on white how those pearls work. And the pearls, they mix up really quick. They mix up much quicker than a mixative because again, that pearl is really fused in with the dye. So if you've used mixatives before, you know you have to like shake it for a long time to get everything mixed. That's mixed enough, all right? When I go in and add this, I'm just gonna start just by dripping some of this on. You can certainly apply it with your ink applicator tool, but I just like to demo that you don't always have to do that. I think, you know, I've been doing it for so many years, people think the only way to get ink on paper is to use that ink tool. But I'll still use it. I'll just use it to kind of manipulate my colors a little differently. So right now it's just pearls. I don't know if you can see, but as that's on there, you see that little sizzle, that little sparkle? Can you see that going on that ink? That's what the pearl is doing. But I love combining ink with pearl. Okay, just the inks, because that's going to give me, see, kind of that break. But that pearl, you'll see, it's going to start going into that ink. It doesn't work like a mixative. It won't maintain its barrier. It's going to start going into that pearl in just a minute. And I'm going to add some blending solution as well. So I want to blend it all together. But first, I'd like to make a giant hot mess. Okay, that's good. We're going to get in with some blending solution. Throw a little bit of that on. Put some blending solution onto the tool. And let's just manipulate it. Sometimes a lot of people are really kind of embracing the drips, so they'll just drip it on, let it dry, and call it art. And I'm good with that. I think that does make for a really cool, easy background. But I do want to show you that on Yupo, even when you're using colors like this, that pearl and that ink really plays well together because I can move that around, but I can also go in and add more. So there we go. It's a little bit of intrigue. So the colors we have deception and intrigue and envy and sublime and smolder and
love
alchemy.
The names.
They're
Love
good.
the names.
Yeah,
Love
they
the
just like give you a feel.
It doesn't
Yeah,
look like
tranquil.
Right?
Sell as much. They don't seem to move as much as the regular.
It's like
No,
melting,
not true. They will. Yes, they do. Yep. They don't have as much.
Yupo, right?
Yeah. They don't.
Oh, look, there it goes.
So
Look,
that's-
see?
Yeah.
They will.
See that blue?
It just depends on what you're putting. If you're putting it over dry, it's just like distress. You put it over dry, you get a bigger cell. You put it over wet, which is what I did here, it blends.
Oh, okay.
So if you want to create a cell over alcohol,
Right.
it's usually over something dry. Yep.
Right.
And then we're going to throw in a little blending solution. And let me put in some, we'll do a little villainous. Yeah.
Villain.
Yeah. It's really
Love the
good.
name.
Here comes the bad boy.
It's really good. And then I'm going to put just a little bit more blue in there. Okay. Now, one of the things that is important to see when it comes to working with this particular medium is our ink and our pearl. If you use them
Look at
simultaneously, it'll become kind of this pearlescent background. A cool effect that I discovered working on the hardcore is I'm just going to dry this. Just dry with a heat tool. You don't have to use a heat tool.
Hey,
you can let it air
girls.
dry. I don't have time for that. But you can go into any slick surface like this and go over it with some blending solution and completely change your background, right? You can get these colors just to kind of create this blend, this drift, this striation of color. And we're just going to let that dry, kind of do its thing. That's what a lot of these drippages are, right? Maybe you don't like that look, maybe you just want it to be a little softer, but all of these backgrounds were done just by adding that. And you could do something very similar with ink and water, right? If you had a coated surface and you were able to put some of that distress ink on, like over a collage medium, you could get something very similar with a water-based ink. But let's show you the sparkle while that's drying. It's important to understand silver sparkle because when I first inked it, I threw mine in the garbage because I didn't wait for it to do its magic, okay? You can use pearls on this, but it will not change the appearance at all, okay? Because the sparkle is in the paper.
So this one
Okay.
has no pearls?
No pearls.
Okay.
Nope. And if you used pearls, it would not look any different, okay? So I'm not gonna waste my pearls on that paper, pretty much. So what we're gonna do here, I'll just show you. I can still shake my ink on there direct if you want to. When I go in and stamp this though, what you're gonna notice is that all of that beautiful sparkle goes away. And you think, oh my gosh, I just ruined it. I just dulled it all
so
out
pretty.
with ink, right? Pretty cool look, but definitely dulled out with ink. it's still reactive though. That's what I also thought was really cool about this, is that it's kind of giving me that crazy reaction that I would normally get. But same thing, I was not impressed, because every time I would add another layer, I'm like, it just looks like a bruise until you dry it. So it can air dry, but watch when this surface dries. As this dries, that sparkle immediately comes back to the top. Okay? So all your color is going to give you that beautiful sparkle. But this, after all, is alcohol ink cardstock, which means I can do all of these cool things on this paper. So if I wanted to go in with my blending solution and I wanted to create kind of that striation of color, that's just going to go in and re-wet that background and create a rhodium blend.
Game changer.
You can just kind of move that around and just let it do its thing, right? If I wanted to go in and add more ink, every single time you put ink on this paper, it's going to react. And that to me is what makes the silver sparkle so cool. You could certainly leave it silvery, but I love the fact that every time I add a layer of ink, I'm just going to get something totally different.
I like that the silver stripes shine in.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, you just never know what you're going to get. And if you hated it, you could ink the entire thing again. So as you're doing it, it really just depends on your saturation of color and how much blending solution you add, how you apply it, whether you're stamping it. I love the fact that I can emboss it. This one was not dripping at all. This was strictly the ink tool, right? Different colors, stamp like normal, have a nice day. So that to me is what's really unique about a different substrate, especially with alcohol ink, because people that don't really know what to do with these inks or be able to do backgrounds, I think giving them a different substrate, very, very cool. So that's that. Now I clean.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yes.
If you did this on the shiny paper, can you do that mica?
Describe shiny.
The glossy, semi-glossy.
Yes. Huh?
You know that mica thing that brings it back up to shine, the micro.
No, so if you want to, so microglaze, yeah,
Microglaze,
but
yeah.
microglaze works on alcohol ink cardstock to bring up the shine. If you want to bring up shine of oxide.
That's what I'm saying. If you did that on that would it work?
No, not on that.
No, I'm saying on the semi-gloss.
Yes.
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 So the sprays would work the same way.
Yeah, same. Yeah,
Okay.
it's just a different delivery system. But if you wanted to bring up shine from this, so let's say we had a background. Let's find something. Let's take something like this one. Right? We want to bring up some color. You would just go in with resist spray on regular matte cardstock. And now when this either air dries or we can go in with the heat tool, it completely changes the finish of this paper. It went from that dull, it will forever be shiny. And if you didn't want it to be orange peel, you would have just completely hosed it with resist spray. You could have just
And it would have
it would have been like as if you did a layer of glossy accents over it. But the unique thing about this particular medium, like when you're working with resist spray doesn't react with the ink very quickly. So as long as you put it on in layers, see how I like put it on, dry it, put it on, it's not going to re-wet everything, but it's a great way to give like a card that would normally be water reactive.
Right.
And you wanted to kind of create that shine, it's a great way to do it. You just spray it on, dry it.
But had you done it on the semi-gloss, it would have worked the same as the pads with the microglaze.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question about
Yes.
this? So what did you do this with? Like what's this texture
Collage
here?
medium.
Is that collage medium?
Yes. So that is just
Right.
taking a tag, taking distress collage medium, collaging that paper doll and ephemera using a collage brush.
Wow. I love
That's
that
what gives it the
texture in
'Cause
there.
A collage
Yeah.
brush, if you look at the end of the brush, it's an actual zigzag. So it doesn't have a
Wow. Did
flat
you see
bristle.
that?
So when you do it, it gives you brush
I've been
strokes.
standing here waiting
Yeah.
because I didn't want to forget to ask. Oh my
Nice.
gosh.
Yeah, I just need to clean up real quick and then I'm there.
And also, do you want some of these?
Oh, no thanks.
I'd like to, like our customers create the glitter dip tumblers. And so
Oh,
alcohol ink is like one of their favorite mediums.
For jam?
Yeah, oh my gosh. And so do you think that the pearl will stay under epoxy? Will you be able to still see the shimmer?
I
under the
believe
epoxy?
you would if you did enough of it. I
Okay.
think, building that in layer, because the really intention of this was to create a subtle pearl, not to
Okay,
create
not
like
like
that
a crazy
big
pearl.
well, how people expect to mix it in. I
Right.
even know that in addition to mixatives, I know that like Pinata has a great gold. It's even more,
Right.
way more intense
Yeah.
than a metallic mixative
Yeah.
because ours was really designed to kind of mix in.
Okay.
but their metallics were designed to be bold. So I think that you could probably get some beautiful. I think the pearlescent would still show through in epoxy resin.
Okay.
I really do.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna test it.
Of course. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's really
Yeah.
cool. I think it's so amazing, really, what people are doing with alcohol inks now.
Yeah,
it's
it's
crazy.
insane.
Yeah, I mean, it started out where we were just, doing polished stone on a background and, doing gloss paper, and now there's so many different substrates that people are playing with alcohol inks on.
Yeah.
Tumblers, ceramic tiles, ornaments, wine glasses, all sorts of things. And then the fine art world is making, oh my God.
Beautiful things.
Holy moly, I don't even know.
Beautiful
I mean, that to me is what's the craziest thing about always coming out with product in the industry, is having that ability to really inspire people to make things in different ways. So,
Can you sign this?
You want to grab a selfie?
Yeah, and I need a selfie. And I just need one because I just went live.
All right. No. I'm not even seeing it on the show.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's Sizzix.
Oh, that's no. It was you. Oh, maybe it is.
Yeah,
There's your towel.
Yeah,
You would know.
it's Sizzix, but I don't have them. That's people at Sizzix giving them out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tim.
You're welcome.
It's been
Sure.
great.
I'm having the guts to ask
Hey,
you if I get a
Mario.
picture too.
Sure.
3 days later,
God.
for like.
Holy moly, that's so good.
That's so
That's dry,
good.
by the way. Good making tape.
Oh, thank you.
Look.
It was fun.
Okay.
You having a good time?
You're welcome.
Tim, can I have you autograph that? Is that okay?
Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely.
To Crystal. Crystal.
13 years in a row. This is our 13th.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
I'm doing well.
Got it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sure.
Could I be a pain in the ass? This will be 13 years in a row.
So excited. Okay. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Oh gosh, I'm leaving my bag. I got so freaking excited that I forgot my bag. Anyway, I thought you guys would enjoy that demo and from Timmy, and we will talk to you in a bit. We'll see where we end up next.